from what I'm gathering about this particular thing, the ship lost power, and so the captain or whoever the person on board the ship, I don't know, had called and radioed and did everything that they could to sort of say this is happening. So I don't think this is like, I don't think there's a villain here.
Yeah. But there's many failures.
Oh yeah. But I just like, this is definitely something that, like, because at first I'm thinking, was the guy drunk? Was he, you know, whatever.
And it was in the middle of the night as well.
Well, which is always like more fortunate, which is always
a lot more people.
Oh, there would always.
Yeah.
It's
This is a very high traffic bridge. And this is again, and we'll discuss it in the article in a minute, but you're going to just see real quick. This is what happened the other night.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I've seen bridges collapse before. It always freaks me out. There was one not that long ago that happened somewhere, I want to say in like Kentucky or I don't know. There was something that happened like maybe 10 years ago or so that was also Minnesota. It might have been in Minnesota.
And the worst part is that you had workers on the bridge that they were there. They were helping. They were doing what they could. This is their job, getting up in the middle of the night to go work on the bridge.
Yeah.
But this is tragic. And so engineers blame 3 million structural flaw for Baltimore's Francis Scott Key Bridge collapsing and tens of thousands of bridges across the U.S. I wish the Brits would be a little bit better with their English.
Sorry. What do you say?
Could also have fault. No bridge can withstand millions of pounds. Yeah, whoever wrote this didn't do a great job. Thanks, Peter Hess. No bridge could withstand millions of pounds of inertia force, which is what really is what
he might not have written the headline.
From a strike, engineers say. But there are structures that can protect a bridge from being struck by a ship. But none of these appear to be in place. Multiple engineers told the Daily Mail. As we scroll down, you will see. Engineers have blamed the deadly collapse of Baltimore's Francis Scott Key Bridge on a design flaw that is present in tens of thousands of U.S. bridges. The Maryland Bridge was missing critical protection systems that would have stopped the nearly 105,000-ton container ship from smashing into the bridge's support. The Francis Scott Key Bridge was built in 1977, and anti-collision devices like fenders or protection cells were not introduced until the 1980s. Experts said installing fenders would cost at least $3 million, but the collapse means a $15 million per day loss in economic activity and $1.5 million in state and local taxes lost every day. And that doesn't include the 6 men who are presumed dead from working on the bridge. Video of the 1.6-mile-long Francis Scott Key Bridge collapsing into the Patapsco River after a cargo ship struck one of its piers at low speed created a surreal scene as the entire bridge appeared to crumble in one fell swoop. As I have said many times before, and this is a list right here, as you can see, of a bunch of different bridges around the country that are currently facing similar structural deficiencies that would cause something catastrophic of this nature to happen again. And this are just a few of the ones that we currently know about and why this is such a bad situation. What cannot be denied and what makes this situation so bad is that we have critical infrastructure crisis all over the country. And this is what's coming. It's not just bridges, it's roads. It's probably energy plants. It's everything. You know, when we had this conversation the other day regarding nuclear power, and my philosophy being that nuclear Series 4 is completely different than what we're left with. We have nuclear reactors, facilities in this country that are severely outdated and have not been kept up to snuff in the way that they needed to be. And by that happening, you run the risk of potentially nuclear catastrophe. And that's just one example. These types of things are going to happen infinitely more consistently if we don't deal with the fact that we have a critical infrastructure problem in this country. But as you have pointed out, as we have talked about many times before, we just have a crisis in capitalism in the United States. The system cannot sustain itself. And this is an example of why this is happening. And there are people who say, oh, well, you don't know what you're talking about. You're not an engineer. You're right. I'm not an engineer. But you know what I do know? I know catastrophes like this generally can be prevented if certain measures are put in place. And as you will see on our Twitter post, there are plenty of structural engineers that actually thankfully came onto the thread and started showing people that thought that they could just own us by not completely wording it correctly, that there were preventative measures that could have been done that could have prevented this from happening.
Did you say something that people thought made us look not so smart?
Because I suggested that it hit the bridge at 9 miles per hour. And just showing that that's it. But again, that size and the fact that there was no give, there was no protection, there were no levers, there were no protection cells. It just hit the bridge right on. It hit a 45-year-old, 47-year-old bridge head on, and it broke completely. Now, could a bridge of that size potentially be able to stop something of that magnitude? Probably not. But you know what? Protective measures were in place in places like the George Washington Bridge in New York City. That's not going to happen. So this is a tragedy of immense proportions in so many ways. And again, you would think, as an example, if we passed an infrastructure bill in this country that was primarily concerned with fixing our infrastructural problems, that would be priority number one if you're going to pass a bipartisan infrastructure bill. Clearly it wasn't, because this happened, and this only cost $3 million. That's all it would have cost on a bridge that has 15 million in interstate commerce passing through it every day. Every day. That's billions of dollars a year that is passing through this one port bridge. And you couldn't spend $3 million to get that fixed? You're telling me that in 3 years you passed that infrastructure bill, you couldn't have taken care of a bridge like this? Of course you could have. And this is blue state Maryland. It's not like you're playing politics and going to the very red state of West Virginia and saying that they can't have protection services. This is Maryland. And they should have done it. Now, my question is this going to set precedent going forward? Is there capital that is from the infrastructure bill that will now be appropriated to all of the failing infrastructure in this country? I won't hold my breath.